Uitvoeragente verteenwoordig die produsent en indien regulering nie in plek is nie, kan die pap op die grond val. Francois Knowles van die Landbouprodukte-agenteraad werp vanoggend lig op hierdie kwessie. Lumpy skin disease in cattle continues to be of economic importance in South Africa and other sub-Saharan countries as it leads to various production losses. Dr. Antoinette van Schalkwyk elaborates on this. But first, stay tuned for the news.
Elanco, we are driven by our vision of food and companionship, enriching life.
And in today's news, the Brandvlei Dam Feeder Canal project, which is funded and managed by the National Department of Water and Sanitation, was officially opened in the Western Cape last week. A total of 21 million rand was spent to raise the 4-kilometre-long canal walls with 30 centimetres, allowing for an additional 33 million cubic metres of water to be stored in the Brandvlei Dam. This will improve current agricultural water security downstream and allow for the development of an additional 4,400 hectares of farmland. According to the Minister of Local Government, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning in the Western Cape, Antoinette, it will also benefit the economies of the surrounding towns, creating jobs throughout the value chain. And the JSE has announced the adoption of a linear reference point for the derivatives contract for soybeans. This follows a proposal received by various role players in the industry to consider multiple reference points rather than the traditional single reference point model. This means that the reference to Randfontein as a single reference point will no longer apply to the soybean derivatives contract. The distances will therefore no longer be published, as the model will rely on the linear programming model to determine to most effective location differentials. Philip Nell was recently named Pannar Seed Salesperson of the Year for the 2022 season. Philip represents Pannar in the Costa and surrounding areas and won this award for applying his sales experience and technical knowledge to provide his customers with good service. The runner-up was Leroux Breitenbach, Pannar sales representative in Welkom. And that's today's news. Ons gesels vandag weer oor APAC en verwelkom soos altyd vir Francois Knowles in die ateljee. Nuwe jaar, nuwe dag, baie welkom.
Baie dankie Lise, plesier om weer by jou te wees.
Kom ons gesels net weer oor APAC. Wie julle is en wat is julle mandaat en waarvoor staan APAC?
Lise, ja, dankie. APAC is die Engelse akroniem vir die Agricultural Produce Agents Council, oftewel die Landbouprodukte-agenteraad. Ons is 'n regulerende instansie. Ons reguleer die werk van agente in Suid-Afrika wat insluit lewende hawe, uitvoeragente en varsprodukagente. Varsprodukagente tipies die ouens op marke. So dis ons mandaat. Ons mandaat is gevestig in 'n wet en dit is wet 12 van 1992 en ons kry hierdie wet van die minister van Landbou af.
Uitvoeragente. Gesels met ons oor hulle en wat is die situasie daar tans?
Uitvoeragente word ook deur ons gereguleer. Ek dink die uitvoeragente is onder geweldige druk in die laaste tyd met Transnet, met die hawens. Hulle het allerlei uitdagings en ons het 'n ernstige fokus wat ons moet gee en ek dink daai fokus is een van ekstreme hulp wat ons hulle moet aanbied. Boonbehalwe die regulatoriese fokus wat ons het.
Wetgewing tans, julle is besig met 'n proses, waar staan ons?
Ons is besig om die APAC mandaat, dis nou wet 12 van 1992 te wysig. Hierdie wysigings word voorgeskryf deur die Departement van Landbou en ons werk met hulle nou saam om dit prakties te maak. Ek wil iets sê oor regulering. Regulering is soos 'n skeieregter wat 'n rugbywedstryd blaas. As daai skeieregter te streng is, dan is daar geen vloei in hierdie wedstryd nie. Maar as jy ook 'n skeieregter het wat nie ferm is nie, dan het jy regtig nie 'n goeie spel nie.
En dinge oorsien.
Wel, verseker. So ons moet seker maak dat ons in die regulatoriese werk wat ons doen, dat ons nie besigheid belemmer nie. Ons moet eerder so werk dat ons die speelveld vir almal gelyk maak en ons moet seker maak dat ons uitvoeragente hulle werk kan doen. Maar baie belangrik, die uitvoeragent verteenwoordig ons boere daar buite. Een ding wat ons baie mooi moet verstaan in Suid-Afrika is, as daar geen boer is nie, het nie een van ons 'n werk nie. Ons ekonomie sal swaar kry. Landbou is die basis van ons ekonomie in 'n baie mooi land. Ons het 'n baie mooi industrie, ons het 'n mooi bedryf en ek dink ten alle koste, veral van my as reguleerder, ons moet alles doen om dit op te pas. Maar ons moet dit doen in balans en ons moenie oorreguleer nie.
Regulatoriese fokus, waar ervaar julle huidig enige probleme?
Ek dink in terme van ons wet word ondersteun deur reëls en dan vir elke been wat ons reguleer is daar 'n stel reëls, so ook vir die uitvoere. Hierdie wet is tans nou, soos ek vir jou gesê het, onder hy word herskryf en herdink en herwerk en ons moet seker maak dat dit wat ons as finale produk op die tafel neersit, uiteindelik die boere baie beter sal beskerm. Maar nie net dit nie, ons moet die speelveld vir die agente ook gelyk maak. Ongelukkig is daar hier en daar agente wat nie geregistreer is of wil wees nie, en ons moet hulle intrek in hierdie net. Wat geld vir een moet geld vir almal, en ons moet seker maak dat daai speelveld absoluut gelyk is.
Is daar een of twee goed waarna jy kan verwys? Iets wat jy kan uitlig?
Ek dink so, dis belangrik dat as 'n boer met 'n agent werk, dat hy moet seker wees dat hierdie agent rigsteen het deur iemand soos APAC. As iets verkeerd loop, dan kan die boere hulle self beroep op APAC en ons sal ondersoek en help waar ons kan. As so 'n agent nie by APAC geregistreer is nie, is dit problematies en dan het die boer nêrens omheen te gaan nie. So dan is daar die moontlikheid van finansiële verlies, reputasieskade. Jy weet, ons werk met groot mense oor see wat baie ernstig kyk na die Suid-Afrikaanse ekonomie en veral die landbou. So ons moet seker maak dat daai speelveld absoluut gelyk is.
Hierdie hersiening van wetgewing, hoe lank gaan dit neem, Francois?
Dit is maar 'n proses. Ek dink ons wil dit nie jaag nie. Ons is in die hande van die Departement van Landbou. So ons insette is maar een van vele insette uit die bedryf word ook gevra. Hulle gee hulle eie insette wat die minister verwag. So ek dink dit is 'n proses wat ons nou maar dis ongelukkig tydsaam. Ons hoop dit sal binnekort die lewe sien. Ek wil net sê hierdie wysiging moet een ding absoluut tot doel hê, en dit is om die totale industrie beter te maak. Nie te oorreguleer nie, maar ons moet kyk na die boere en ons moet kyk na die agente ook.
Behalwe vir die wetgewing, hoe lyk die toekoms?
Die toekoms is blink. Ek dink regtig ons moet die omstandighede wat ons tans ervaar met gate in die paaie, donkerte hier en daar. Dit is dinge wat ons mee saamleef en ons as Suid-Afrikaners, in my opinie, is baie goed om hierdie goeders kreatief te bestuur. So ook moet ons, as ons werk doen in die landbou, moet ons weet, kyk na die probleme, daar is maniere om verby dit te kom. My beroep op die industrie is, ek dink dit is nou die tyd dat ons meer as ooit hande moet vat en met mekaar moet saamwerk. Ons is baie geneig om in hierdie silo's te werk en elkeen is op sy eie projekkie besig. Kom ons vat hande, kom ons kyk hoe ons saam hierdie uitdagings kan oorwin. Dis my beroep. Dis wat ek glo en dis wat ek sien APAC vir hierdie industrie kan beteken.
Baie dankie Francois.
Baie dankie.
Daar sy. Francois Knowles van APAC wat vandag bietjie oor hulle bedryf gesels het en ook die wetgewing wat hersien word.
Wel, vir die boere, kom ons kyk 'n bietjie na die rand en dit is belangrik want ons het so rukkie terug genoem dat die rand kan verswak. Ja, en die rand het verswak. Hierdie dalende kanaal was maar net 'n formasie wat baie binnekort sou gewys het dat die rand kan verswak. En wat het gebeur toe die kanaal daardie vlak van R17.44 breek en ons teiken is eintlik R18.22, maar die rand het skielik verswak en hy het gister, die 13de Februarie, het hy gaan die hoogtepunt haal van R18.08. Maar nou wil ek vir boere sê, terwyl almal so negatief is teenoor die rand, kyk 'n bietjie na hierdie kers. Hierdie kers noem ons 'n moontlike verskietende sterkers. En 'n verskietende sterkers lei gewoonlik 'n periode van versterking in. Maar wanneer is 'n verskietende sterkers geldig of wanneer doen hy sy werk? As hy onder daai laagtepunt, en daai laagtepunt lê by R17.82. As hy onder R17.82 kan beweeg, kan ons die rand mooi pragtig sien terug versterk na hierdie lyn toe. Dis baie naby aan die R17.40, R17.42 vlakke, maar ek dink vir die oomblik vir al die boere, hou dit maar dop. Ek dink die meeste van die verswakking vir die rand tydelik is verby. Behalwe as die rand nou hierbo R18.09 begin konsolideer, dan gaan die momentum verder dalk na R18.22 toe. Ekskuus. Maar hierdie kers sê vir my dalk uit vir die oomblik net te ver verswak. So kom ons hoop hy gee 'n bietjie 'n terugtrek hier na R17.42, R17.44 toe, en as hy dan van hierdie lyn af opkom, moet die boere versigtig wees, dan kan hy dalk weer hierdie verswakkende tendens na bo voortsit. Wel, baie dankie, besoek gerus ons webtuiste www.fransklerk.com vir meer inligting en ons gesels weer.
What is lumpy skin disease and what measures may be taken to prevent this disease? Well, this is what we will be talking about this morning with Dr. Antoinette van Schalkwyk from the ARC. Antoinette, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, exactly what is lumpy skin disease?
Lumpy skin disease is a terribly neglected disease in South Africa, yet it is of significant economic importance. The importance to the farmer is due to economic losses such as the loss of condition of the animal through emaciation or drop in milk production, which could lead to mastitis, death of the animal, and then it also produces nodes or lumpy skin, which will actually affect the hide, so the farmer can't sell that in the end. It can lead to infertility or sterility of both the cow as well as the bull, and eventually can even result into death. Lumpy skin is caused by a pox virus called lumpy skin disease virus. It's been in South Africa since 1944. Recently, it has spread across the world into Europe and Asia, and currently it's circulating in most of the Southeast and Asian countries. It is predominantly spread by flies or mosquitoes or any blood-sucking or blood-feeding insects, and this is through mechanical transmission, but it can also spread through contaminated feed or water, and that is because it is in the blood, saliva, nasal secretions, and even in the lumps itself, which later on falls off from the animal.
Won't you elaborate on the clinical signs and what should farmers do when they suspect there is lumpy skin disease?
So the clinical signs start with a fever. This is normally anything from 39 to 40 degrees for about a week. In large lymph nodes, it's excessive salivation or nasal secretion as well as ocular secretion. And then the classical signs of lumpy skin disease is the pox, which forms on the skin. Now, these POCs can vary from the animal as well as from the condition that the animal was previously in. So they can be anything from 1 centimeter to about 5 centimeters in size. They can be few, and then they normally only located on their head, the neck, and the shoulders of the animals, or they can spread throughout the body of the animal. So there can be hundreds of them. These can be superficial, so only in the epidermis, or again, they can be throughout all the dermis layers into the muscle, and in which case it will affect the movement of the cattle. They can also occur within the throat as well as the lungs, which will make it difficult for the animal to breathe and to eat. So what to do? Look after your animals and see if you notice them. So early detection is very important. Lumpy skin disease is a notifiable disease, which means that the country should report this to the World Organization for Animal Health. So when a farmer suspects it, because a lot of the first symptoms are very general, the high fever, excessive saliva, enlarged lymph nodes, that could be anything. So if the farmer is not sure, contact your animal health technician, the veterinarian, state veterinarian. They will collect samples, which they will send then to Onderstepoort Veterinary Institute. We will do the diagnostic as well as report it to the Department of Agriculture. There's no cure for lumpy skin disease. So farmers normally treat the symptoms. The symptoms will either be antimicrobials. So this is not to treat the virus, because antimicrobials do not work for virus, but the antibiotics will work for secondary bacterial infections, which might occur in the lumps. Additionally, they can treat it with anti-inflammatory agents, which will then basically make the animal less painful and encourage appetite.
Well, the next question is obviously, what can we do to prevent and control this disease? Don't go away. We'll be back with that answer.
Ons stel bekend, die nuwe, sterker as ooit tevore, 165 kW Hilux GR Sport.
Welcome back to our discussion on lumpy skin disease with Dr. Antoinette van Schalkwyk from the Agricultural Research Council. Now, Antoinette, we did talk about the clinical signs and what farmers should do. Now, what measures can be taken to prevent and control this disease?
So the old saying, prevention is better than cure, and since there's no cure, we do have a vaccine available. The vaccine is a live attenuated strain of the Neetling isolate that has been available in South Africa since 1960. Currently, that is being produced by 3 different manufacturers in the country. We strongly advise that farmers vaccinate their cattle annually. Only vaccinate healthy animals. Calves from naive cows can be vaccinated after 6 months. Pregnant cattle can be vaccinated, but it is significantly important that farmers do this regularly. Other control measures that can be implemented is to never move a sick animal, only bring in healthy animals into your herd. Have the cattle regularly tested if you're not sure before you bring a diseased animal in. Control movement of people that might have been affected or might be in contact with a diseased animal. And then control the vector. Since we said that they might be spread mechanically through insects, a regular dipping regime is always a good idea, because that will also help treat your animal against tick-borne diseases.
Now, being with the Agricultural Research Council, I suppose you do research. So tell us about that, and how's the ARC currently involved in all of this?
So the Agricultural Research Council Onderstepoort Veterinary Institute is one of the World Organization for Animal Health reference centers for lumpy skin disease, which means that we play a very important role in the control as well as advising of the disease to not only South Africa or governments, but also to other countries. So, for example, we play a big role in training and establishing other laboratories' capacity to test for the disease. This was especially important recently when the outbreak occurred in Asia and Europe, since it was a transparent and a novel disease to them. We also involved in regulatory mechanisms. So basically just advising and training, making sure that people have or know about the vaccines and about vaccination. I'm part from the program called Vaccine Development and Diagnostic. So firstly, we look at the diagnostic assays because we are the laboratory that are testing for lumpy skin disease. So we ensure that the diagnostic assays are still relevant. If not, because the virus might have changed or because we might want to look for differentiation between a vaccinated or a naturally infected animal, we will develop novel diagnostic techniques. Currently, we are involved with a project from the Gauteng Department of Agriculture, GDOT, to look for a serosurveillance and to actually develop a test that can differentiate serologically between vaccinated and naturally infected animals. And then for the vaccine development, since we have the attenuated live vaccine, we can use that as a backbone to insert novel proteins from other diseases, basically making a 2-in-1 vaccine, so that the backbone will not only protect against lumpy skin, but also whatever novel protein you've put in there. This is very much like the COVID vaccine that uses the human adenovirus backbone. And then lastly, the ARC is involved in training. We've got a training unit at Onderstepoort. This is especially for animal health technicians and extension officers, but also farmers, where we not only train them on what and when and where, but what to do if you see the disease and how to take samples properly. For us personally, dissemination of information is really important, so we keep on telling farmers, please vaccinate. We've got this motto that says, don't stagnate, go vaccinate.
Good. That's a good saying.
Yeah.
Antoinette, thank you very much for all the information and shedding some light on lumpy skin disease.
Thank you for having us.
And that's from the Agricultural Research Council. You know where to go if you are experiencing that problem and you need more information.